Nneka, a gorgeous princess, resided in Enugu State in a little village surrounded by hills and green trees. She was her people's pride, with her radiant beauty, outstanding movements, and a smile that could brighten even the darkest night. But Nneka was so proud that she felt no man in the village deserved her hand in marriage. One by one, the village's finest young men attempted to win her heart. Some sent gifts of gold and silver, while others sang love songs that resounded throughout the valley. Even the most valiant soldiers, known for their deeds in battle, arrived with stories of heroism to impress her. Nonetheless, Nneka turned them all away, her head held high and her heart locked to their advances. "I will not marry a mere villager," she said, her voice full of disgust. "Only a man of extraordinary power and wealth, someone greater than any of you, deserves to stand by my side." The guys talked amongst themselves, growing tired of Nneka's attitude. Mothers advised their sons not to waste their time, and fathers shook their heads with disappointment. But Nneka paid no attention. She continued to take pleasure in her own vanity, convinced that someone worthy would eventually come for her. Then, one day, a stranger came to the village. He was tall, with skin as smooth as ebony and eyes as bright as flaming coals. He wore a cloak of expensive cloth that shimmered in the sunlight, and his voice was as deep as the river that ran through the village. He presented himself as Amadi, a prosperous businessman from a faraway place. Nneka's eyes brightened as she spotted him. Here was a man who appeared to represent the greatness that she desired. She was captivated by his mysterious appearance and confident personality. Without hesitation, she permitted Amadi to woo her, and they were married in a magnificent ceremony that filled the village with music and dancing. As they adapted to their new lives, Nneka began to notice unusual things in her spouse. He would vanish for hours at a time, returning with eyes that seemed to flash with an unusual brightness. He never ate with her, instead going to a dark room and locking himself away. At night, she heard him murmuring in a language she didn't understand, his voice a low, creepy whisper that sent chills down her spine. One evening, Nneka resolved to confront Amadi. She discovered him in their room, peering into a mirror that revealed a horrible figure with teeth that were pointy and eyes that burned like fire. "Amadi, what is this?" Nneka screamed and stumbled backward in fear. Amadi turned to her, his expression hardening. "You were too proud to marry any man in your village. You desired someone unique, someone beyond human." He laughed, his voice no longer smooth and pleasant but full of a poisonous substance. "I am not an ordinary man. I am an underworld spirit who has claimed you as my bride." Nneka's heart pounded in her chest. She had desired someone greater, but not this, never this. "Let me go. I will not stay married to a monster," she said, her voice shaking. Amadi laughed, and the sound reverberated across the walls like a horrible cry. "You have no option. You are mine now, and you shall serve me until the rest of your life." Nneka's eyes flooded up with tears as she recognized the significance of her proud decisions. She had insulted her village's noble men, only to find herself stuck with a monster disguised as one. As the days grew into weeks, Nneka was forced to follow Amadi's instructions, making weird foods and carrying out rituals she didn't understand. She became weak and fragile, her once gorgeous face now a mask of sadness. One night, while lying in bed, Nneka heard a familiar voice call her name. She turned to see her father, who stood in the doorway with a sorrowful and loving expression. "Father, help me," Nneka cried, reaching out for him. Her father shook his head, his eyes filling with tears. "You were overly proud, my daughter. You selected this path, now you must find a way out of it." With that, he left, leaving Nneka to her misery. Determined to be free, Nneka began to pray to the gods, appealing for pity and forgiveness. She made sacrifices and promised to reform her ways if she could get away from her horrible spouse. The gods, moved by her genuine repentance, sent a wise elderly woman to her rescue. The woman, dressed in white, showed up at Nneka's home one evening. "I am aware of your suffering, child," she murmured kindly. "There is a way to break the tie with the spirit, but it will not be simple. You must confront him at the river during the full moon and reveal his true name." Nneka nodded, hope in her heart. She eagerly waited for the full moon, and that night, she followed Amadi to the river, where he frequently performed his dark rites. Nneka took a step forward as the moonlight cast a shining glow over the river. "Amadi," she said, her voice trembling. "Or should I say Ogbuegu, the spirit of the underworld?" Amadi froze, his eyes wide open in disbelief. "How do you know my name?" he hissed, his body shifting and trembling. "I know who you are, and I reject you." Nneka shouted, her voice loud and clear. "By the power of the gods, I banish you from this world and from my life." Amadi's body melted into smoke, moving into the night air until he vanished. Nneka sank on the riverside, tears of relief flowing down her cheek. The following morning, Nneka returned to her village, humbled and grateful. She apologized to the men she had despised, and the villagers greeted her with open arms. Despite never marrying again, Nneka remained a valued person in her society, recognized for her wisdom and humility rather than her beauty or vanity. Nneka dedicated her life to serving people in need and taught the villagers' young ladies the value of kindness and humility after that. And, despite having learned her lesson the hard way, Nneka was glad for the second chance.